Rock and roll isn't just a genre of music. It's a fashion revolution that has echoed through the decades. Today, we're diving deep into the evolution of rock fashion, exploring how each note and rhythm shaped a new wave of style. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more exciting content. The 1950s marked a seminal period in the evolution of both music and fashion, laying down a foundational blueprint that would shape the cultural landscape for decades to come. At the forefront of this transformative era were pioneers like Elvis Presley and Bill Haley, whose influence extended far beyond their groundbreaking musical contributions. These artists became icons of style, embodying the spirit of youth rebellion and cultural shift that defined the time. Elvis Presley, with his charismatic stage presence and distinctive vocal style, was more than just a musical sensation. He was a fashion icon whose influence is still felt today. His pompadours, a hairstyle featuring hair swept upwards from the face and worn high over the forehead, became synonymous with the rebellious youth of the era. This wasn't just a style statement. It was a bold declaration of individuality and nonconformity. Similarly, Bill Haley, with his hit Rock Around the Clock, catapulted to fame and brought with him a fashion sense that resonated with the rebellious spirit of the youth. The 1950s, therefore, were not just about the music. They were about a comprehensive cultural shift that saw fashion and music intertwined in an unprecedented way. The 1960s burst onto the cultural scene like a technicolor dream, weaving a diverse tapestry of rock fashion that mirrored the decade's dynamism and rapid social change. This era was characterized by an explosion of musical genres, and together they painted a vibrant picture of the times. The Beatles, arguably the most influential band of the era, were at the forefront of the mod fashion movement. They epitomized the mod look with their clean, sophisticated attire that included tailored suits, slim ties, and pointed leather boots. The Beatles' adoption of this look not only made it globally popular, but also symbolized the merging of music and fashion as a form of personal and collective identity. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, the Summer of Love in San Francisco heralded the birth of the hippie movement, a stark contrast to the mod aesthetic. This movement embraced a more organic, free-spirited style that included tie-dye shirts, bell-bottom jeans, peasant blouses, and flower crowns. These fashion choices reflected the hippies' ideals of peace, love, and harmony with nature, and their colorful, eclectic attire became symbols of resistance against the conformist norms of the previous decade. The 60s also witnessed the rise of folk rock, a genre that brought the introspective storytelling of folk music into the electrifying realm of rock and roll. Artists like Bob Dylan were pivotal in this movement, and his fashion choices reflected the earthy, authentic spirit of folk music. Dylan often sported casual, earth-toned attire, including denim jeans, work shirts, and leather jackets, which would come to influence the emerging bohemian style. This look conveyed a sense of down-to-earth simplicity and a connection to the roots of American music and culture. The 1970s unfolded as an era marked by a vivid theatricality and a spirit of rebellion within the realm of rock fashion, setting the stage for some of the most iconic and transformative style movements in music history. This period was characterized by a dramatic departure from the previous decade's more subdued expressions, diving headfirst into a world where fashion became as integral to an artist's identity as the music they produced. At the heart of this sartorial revolution was the glam rock phenomenon, with figures like David Bowie and Mark Bolan at the vanguard. These artists transformed the rock landscape not just through their music, but through their visual presentations, which were as captivating and innovative as their soundtracks. David Bowie, in particular, through his various personas such as Ziggy Stardust, brought androgyny and theatrical extravagance into the mainstream. His sequined jumpsuits, flamboyant capes, and bold makeup choices challenged traditional gender norms and invited a conversation on identity and self-expression that was groundbreaking for the time. Parallel to the glitz and glamour of glam rock was the emergence of the punk movement, a gritty counterpoint to the former's opulence. Spearheaded by bands like the Ramones and the Sex Pistols, punk rock was more than just a musical genre. It was a cultural rebellion against the status quo. The fashion associated with this movement was intentionally raw and confrontational, symbolizing a rejection of mainstream values and commercialism. Ripped t-shirts, adorned with band logos and political slogans, safety pins not just as a necessity, but as a statement, leather jackets, and the ubiquitous Doc Martens boots formed the quintessential punk look. This DIY aesthetic was emblematic of the punk ethos, a raw, unfiltered expression of individuality and discontent with societal norms. The 1980s resonated with a cacophony of bold sounds and equally bold fashion statements, marking an era where excess and flamboyance were not just accepted, but celebrated. The glam metal scene, an evolution of the previous decade's glam rock, took the theatricality and androgyny of its predecessor and amped it up with an added dose of aggression and machismo. Bands like Motley Crue and Poison became the epitome of this style, blending the glam rock's flamboyant aesthetics with a harder, edgier musical sound. Their fashion choices were a vivid spectacle of teased hair, often reaching dizzying heights and defying gravity, tight leather pants, and spandex that left little to the imagination. Accessories like bandanas, leather cuffs, and an abundance of metal studs and chains completed the look, making glam metal bands and their fans stand out in any crowd. Simultaneously, the 80s also witnessed the rise of new wave and post-punk genres that offered a counterpoint to the glam metal's bravado. Bands in this scene, such as Depeche Mode and The Cure, adopted a more eclectic and avant-garde approach to fashion, often incorporating elements of earlier punk aesthetics, but with a more polished, sophisticated twist. The dark, brooding look associated with these acts, characterized by stark black clothing, angular hairstyles, and a general air of introspection, laid the groundwork for what would later be recognized as the Gothic style. The 1980s were a time of bold experimentation in rock fashion, with artists exploring a wide range of styles, from the extravagant and flashy to the dark and mysterious. The 1990s introduced a dramatic pivot in the rock fashion landscape, characterized by a marked departure from the flamboyant excess of the previous decade to embrace a more understated, raw aesthetic. This shift was most notably embodied by the grunge movement, which rose from the Pacific Northwest's underground music scene, reshaping not only the sound of rock, but also its associated fashion sensibilities. Central to the grunge movement were bands like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden, whose music echoed themes of disillusionment and apathy, a stark contrast to the hedonistic anthems of the 80s. This sense of disenchantment was mirrored in the grunge fashion, which championed a laid-back, anti-fashion ethos. The quintessential grunge look featured flannel shirts, often worn tied around the waist or layered over band tees, paired with oversized knits that spoke of comfort and a certain disregard for the mainstream fashion industry's dictates. Distressed denim, whether in the form of jeans or shorts worn over opaque tights, added to the ensemble's overall worn and lived-in vibe. This thrift store aesthetic, characterized by its mix-and-match approach and its embrace of secondhand garments, was not just a fashion statement, but a reflection of the grunge movement's ethos, valuing authenticity and emotional rawness over appearance and material success. Concurrently, across the Atlantic, the Britpop scene was burgeoning, offering a different take on rock fashion influenced by a 60s mod revival. Bands like Oasis and Blur, at the forefront of this movement, infused their music with a distinctly British sense of identity, which was also evident in their fashion choices. The Britpop look included parkas, an essential outerwear piece that became synonymous with the scene, and polos, which added a touch of mod-inspired smartness to the otherwise casual ensembles. This blending of past and present styles not only paid homage to the British musical heritage, but also provided a sharp contrast to the grunge aesthetic, with its slightly more polished and deliberate approach to casual wear. Both movements, though differing in their stylistic expressions, shared a common underlying theme of authenticity and a return to basics, rejecting the overtly manufactured and glamorous for something more real and relatable. This shift in fashion not only reflected the changing landscape of rock music, but also mirrored broader societal trends towards introspection and a search for genuine expression, leaving a lasting impact on the fashion world that continues to resonate today. The advent of the new millennium heralded a period in rock fashion characterized by an eclectic fusion of styles. This era, shaped significantly by the digital revolution, has seen the lines between different rock subcultures blur, leading to a rich tapestry of fashion influences that cross time periods and stylistic boundaries. Indie bands such as The Strokes and Arctic Monkeys have played a pivotal role in this stylistic renaissance, channeling the effortless cool that defined the rock icons of the 60s and 70s. Their fashion sense harks back to a simpler, more understated style, reminiscent of the early days of rock and roll, with slim-fitting jeans, leather jackets, and vintage tees. This revival of classic rock fashion elements, combined with a modern twist, captures the indie genre's essence, a nod to rock's roots while forging a distinct identity that resonates with contemporary audiences. Simultaneously, the emo and pop-punk scenes have reinvigorated the punk ethos, albeit with a nuanced interpretation that aligns with the sensibilities of the new millennium. Bands like My Chemical Romance and Green Day have become emblematic of this style, incorporating elements such as skinny jeans, which have become a staple of the emo and pop-punk wardrobe, band tees that pay homage to the DIY spirit of punk, and studded belts that add an edge to the ensemble. This fashion aesthetic, with its blend of punk's rebellious spirit and a more polished, accessible approach, reflects the emo and pop-punk scene's emotional intensity and their emphasis on individuality and self-expression. The digital age has played a crucial role in democratizing fashion, breaking down the barriers that once kept various subcultures in silos. The internet has facilitated a cross-pollination of styles, allowing fans and artists alike to draw inspiration from a vast array of sources. This blending of influences, facilitated by the digital age, ensures that rock fashion remains a dynamic and evolving form of self-expression, continually shaped by its rich history and the endless possibilities of the future. As we've seen, rock fashion is more than just clothing. It's an identity, a form of expression that resonates with the rebellious spirit of rock and roll. What will the next chapter hold? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. Rock fashion will continue to inspire, challenge, and redefine the boundaries of style. If you've enjoyed this rock and roll fashion exploration, don't forget to hit that like button, share with fellow music lovers, and subscribe for more exciting content on Life in Stereo. Until next time, keep rocking.